social media is inundated with healthcare tips and recommendations, and it's confusing.
It's very, very basic here. You need to have a wide variety of food when you are fueling your body. It sounds so simplistic.
We want to be your guides. There's a lot of posts out there. So Phil, what do you think the number one thing in the world right now that's killing us? Do you think it's high blood pressure? Do you think it's diabetes? Do you think it's smoking? What do you think the number one thing of all in the world that's killing us?
You know I know the answer already.
Well, I know you know the answer, but...
if it weren't me, I would have said heart disease.
Right.
But knowing that I already know the answer, I'm going to go ahead and go with fear.
Well, it actually is fear, because the problem is that all of the issues that we have all end up being because of what we feel.
Sure.
And fear, it's fear of not going to the doctor, not going to the doctor, getting results, not getting the results.
What's the number one thing your patients say when they come to you? When they didn't do what they're supposed to do?
You're going to be mad at me.
Yeah,
They put their head down.
Always. I didn't do it. I didn't do my homework. I didn't do what you told me to do. You're going to be so mad.
And I sit there and say, I'm not going to be mad at you. You can be mad at yourself, and we'll get to that today. So, whether it's starting an exercise program, starting a diet program, which you hate that word,
I do.
Whether it's starting a medications that you're prescribed by your doctor, all of these things add up. And we're going to get to that today. So we're here today to discuss what constant worry, what constant fear, anger, stress, all of these emotions do to our bodies.
Yeah. Well, that's that old adage, this saying, fear will kill you.
And
it will get you. It will get you every time.
And we're also going to discuss the science that backs this up, by the way. So there's a great quote that I read, which is, if fear were a prescription drug, it would require a black box warning. And I think that's just perfect in this case. So let me show you, if you will, what fear does to our brains, our body, and our arteries for that matter. So when your brain perceives stress of any type, any perception of anger, of anxiety, all of these emotions, it activates the brain in three patterns, in three ways. And these parts are all connected by something called the hypothalamus. It's like this small little almond-sized nugget, if you will, in the brain that's a thermostat or the remote control, and it regulates your emotions in terms of anger and fear and stress. Now, it keeps you calm when you want to be calm, and it gets you ready for action when you need it. And that's all well and good, but managing fear and excitement, in and of itself is fine, but it tells the rest of the body what to do. Now, it cascades down to something called the pituitary gland. And from there, it goes down into our pelvis to the adrenal glands. And what happens there, once stress is perceived, is it activates something called cortisol. Now, cortisol is like your emergency alarm system.
It's a stress hormone.
It's your stress hormone. It's your flight or fight nervous system. It's your emergency alarm system. It's your stress superhero, if you will. And what happens is that in terms of short-term activity, it helps you run away when you need to run away and tackle something when you need to tackle it. Short-term, it's great. But long-term, people that are chronically having anxiety and worry, people that are insomniacs, they don't sleep. Know anybody like that? People that stress eat. They eat too much bad food, and we'll get to that one soon. People that because of stress don't exercise. All of those issues bring up constant increase in cortisol. And what happens when we make too much cortisol? High blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes from excess sugar, and both of those in turn cause something called inflammation. And inflammation, we're going to get to. You're
going to hear that word a lot.
Especially with you, it's a cornerstone of everything you do with nutrition and everything I do with cardiology. And at the end of the day, heart attacks. So there's only one study, I quote a lot of studies, but there's only one study in 2022 that really needs to be said. Basically, it followed a lot of people and looked at low levels of fear and high levels of fear. And the bottom line is that high levels of fear and anxiety, it caused 70% increase in heart events.
That's scary.
This was over a 5-year period. So regardless, by the way, of treating cholesterol, of treating sugar,
right.
and regardless of lifestyle like exercise. So all of those things, weight loss,
So
all
even
of those
if you
things.
do all those things.
Does not matter, okay? Over 5 years, if you're chronically under stress and anxiety, from that standpoint.
And there's also another key component. When you're under that much stress for a really long period of time, autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
It really triggers too much inflammation long-term can trigger autoimmune disease. And I had that experience. And,
And when you're under stress,
in another episode, but it'll kill you.
Yeah.
It'll kill you.
it certainly makes you sick, and
Yeah.
we do live through that. But also about like the heart rate variability. That's something you brought up when we were discussing this.
Yeah. Well, heart rate variability is the amount of time between each beat of your heart, right? And ideally, we'd say be 1 second between 60. We would beat 60 times in a minute, but some people have a variability in that, and so we really want you to have. It's important that your heart have variability, that it doesn't beat the exact time all the time. It actually is a sign of health,
Yeah.
and your ability to be resilient and to manage stress. And if you have low heart rate variability, and that's kind of the opposite. It's like you're not very resilient, you are higher risk of mortality, higher risk of heart disease, higher risk of mental health and mood swings and things of that nature. And one of the things that controls that, the heart rate variability, is controlled by a nerve called the vagus nerve. And if you've ever heard, it's a cranial nerve, and it runs from the back of your head, through your chest, into your abdomen. And that's incredibly important for how fear manages your body, not how you manage fear.
How it
because
takes over.
once fear takes over, it is managing your body. And so I have a few little key notes here, because unlike my brainiac husband, sometimes I need a little
She's
reminder.
smarter than me.
He says so, but that's only because he wants to stay on my good side. The nervous system regulates your heart rate variability through this vagus nerve. And some signs of having what we call low vagal tone, which sounds very like fancy and medical, but really it just means you're not really good at reacting to stress. And some of those signs can be panic attacks, increased heart rate, or even you feel super lightheaded when you stand up, right?
Yeah.
That happens to a lot of people. Insomnia, you're not able to sleep. So one of the ways, or there's 5 ways that the nervous system regulates this. And so when fear takes over, you lose the ability to slow your heart rate and just be able to relax, which seems very common sense. You lose the ability, it affects your rest and digest, which is part of your nervous system, right? In that, you lose the ability to stimulate the enzymes you need to break up all the food in your gut when you eat and release hydrochloric acid. And really all that needs is like really the thing that you need most to help break down that food. You lose the ability to have the communication between the brain and the gut. And we're going to talk a lot about that, but it's incredibly important. So while we're talking about fear, it affects so many aspects
Absolutely.
of the body, right?
Absolutely.
Nutritionally, cardiovascularly, etc.
It does. I mean, that's why it is the #1 killer. It leads to all the problems. So that's why we decided to kick this off with this introduction of why you get what you get sometimes and you're just not even aware of it. And obviously we're going to tell you what to do about it shortly. But the bottom line is that it's just not cholesterol that kills us. It's
Right.
bad chemistry of fear. That's what messes you up, just like you just perfectly said. So in terms of the heart, we can have a blockage and it can be stable and we can be doing very well. Or we can have, just like you said, we can have a lot of inflammation, and we're going to talk about that in a heart attack show, caused by stress and anxiety and chronic stress and anxiety, or even an acute event, so to speak, and it can make that plaque in your artery unstable, and boom, that's a heart attack. So basically, the quote is, fear is the matchstick that sets this whole process off. So it's like just one match to the matchbook, and poof, from that standpoint. So with that, we go into our call to action, our last part that we always will do. We call it get to work. So the key to all of this is fear is not just an emotion.
Yeah.
It's a modifiable risk factor. So that if you keep that in mind with what we're going to now coach you on and help you on, you can definitely make changes that are going to help you.
I think it's really important,
Please.
sorry to interrupt,
No,
I think it's really important to understand too that you can't be in heal mode and fear mode at the same time.
No, they don't work. They don't coexist.
Your body cannot heal when you are experiencing or under tremendous stress or experiencing a lot of fear. And sometimes people think that fear is a call to action, but really it's not. It's a shutdown. It really just shuts your body down. You know, people say, well, if I'll scare it into them, or I'll make them so scared that they'll take care of it, or you'll...
It never works, by the way.
It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It invokes the opposite effect. So,
and a lot of my patients, absolutely, and a lot of your clients, I'm sure it's the same. It doesn't matter. Whatever it's insomnia and poor sleep, or whether it's a poor diet developing insulin resistance, otherwise known as pre-diabetes, or stress eating, or just not exercising because you're constantly fatigued and exhausted from all of this cortisol. All of that leads to a higher heart risk, higher everything risk, but from my standpoint, a higher heart risk. But here's the key. You're not powerless. You need to recognize the stress. You need to recognize the anxiety. You need to recognize the fear in order to overcome it. Basically, choose to act, not react.
But in that moment, it's very hard for people to see.
Well, this is what we're helping them
Yeah,
with.
but how many times has a patient come in and they have like white coat syndrome because they're so
Yeah,
scared,
yeah.
right? And they're like, my blood pressure's not really normally high.
Well, that's why I used to do the radio show long ago called White Coat Syndrome Without the White Coat. And we talk about the differences between their blood pressure in the office and at the kitchen table in the morning before coffee, before thinking about the day, before running around, showering, etc. And there's such a big difference. And we have a real good hypertension podcast to talk about at one point. So we're going to give you 5 steps how. And you're going to kick that off because in the Get to Work, there's so much about nutrition. It's just crazy. So the first one is fuel your body.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Well, it's super important. So we're going to talk a lot about anti-inflammatory nutrition throughout every episode of the podcast because that's kind of what I do. But I think it's really important to understand a few things, and we're just going to very, very basic here. You need to have a wide variety of food when you are fueling your body. It sounds so simplistic, but there is no real rocket science here. It is about having, healthy proteins, really good sources of healthy fats. And carbs are not your enemy. It just depends what kind that you have. And we'll talk a lot about that. We want to stay away from refined sugars and refined carbs, but you need a really big variation in your diet. And we're going to talk so much about gut microbiome and gut health, but you need variation. It is not good to eat the same foods every day, all day. And what was your number 2?
So the second item on our Get to Work, our call to action for reducing fear and improving our longevity and lifespan is move every day.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discussion about that, whether it's 10,000 steps, whether it's 7,000 to 9,000 steps. We're going to do a whole discussion on that, but it's just movement. Yeah. And I use an example of how we have a pretty big practice, and it's such a great feeling to see on the lunch breaks, a lot of our staff, especially when it's not 96 degrees or 10 degrees outside, they will go outside for their walk and instead of their lunch break. So they might eat a quick lunch, or they'll come back, but they'll do at least 30 minutes of walking. And it's great to see. I've seen them walk around our office building.
That's also a really controlled environment, right? So that's like healthy is the thing there. But a lot of people don't have that support, right, in an environment where people are coming in. And so many of my clients will come in and say, oh, my doctor said I have to do 75 minutes of exercise 3 times a week. I'm arbitrarily picking a number here. And I'll say to them, I want you to do some. You don't have to do 75 minutes to start. No. I just want you to move. And if the blue zone studies, we talk about this all the time, that those are areas in the world where people live to be centurion and they live healthy to be over 100 years old. And they don't have gyms and they don't go to HIIT classes and they just move. They just move. And so it's really important to really emphasize that all those things are fantastic, but just encourage your patients and clients to just move.
We do.
And it's cumulative. So if you can do 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the afternoon, it all matters. I think people feel that if I can't do that big number, I'm just not going to do it.
I give them homework every time they leave. Eat smart, eat less, move more. And that's the medical way to do it that I learned back in 2002.
Which is not 100%
I know it's
accurate.
not. So that's what I tell them. But then my way of doing it, the Dr. Scott way of doing it, is if it looks good, don't eat it and move your butt. But either way, it's the same kind of answer. So number 3 is know your numbers. And we're going to talk about that a lot, about taking charge and being a patient advocate. But from my perspective, knowing your numbers means that you get to testing. Now, this is me getting emotional, but I blew it. Last time I got everything checked was 2023, and I was doing great at that point. I did your nutrition program, and I've done it now for 2 years. I thought that was enough, and I didn't check my numbers, and I got some bad labs back. And now that puts me into action, so to speak. So in other words, knowing gives you anxiety, and not knowing,
yeah.
So in other words, not knowing gives you a lot of stress and anxiety, and it got me worried, but actually knowing gets me moving. It gets me action, and I have to do the things I have to do, both lifestyle and increase my medications in
And
this
listen
case.
to your wife.
No, what you say is, oh, you were too busy, and I said, no, it's on me.
Yeah.
I said it's on me because it is on me. It's on all of us. It's on all of us all the time.
have to be your own advocate.
So knowing your numbers gets you taking action.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Number 4, and I learned a lot about this back in 2019, is strengthen your mind, because it's the only way. And there's so many different ways to do this, and you're going to add to this of ways that people can do this. Whether it's learning breathing techniques, doing meditation, which is what I started in 2019, yoga. A long time ago, I did that. It was one of the best things I ever did. I wish I had the time to do it now. And the bottom line is that strengthening your mind is such a good way. All of the practices that you can do is to reduce the fear and anxiety that causes the inflammation that could lead to the heart attack. Yeah. So, I mean,
There's a few things I always tell my patients: just laugh.
Yeah.
Just go out and have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really one of the biggest ways.
Yeah.
A lot of people use journals, and they like to journal because for them that is a way of being mindful and being grateful, right? Really recognizing gratitude every single day. And so all of these things are not for every person, right? Not every person's going to make a journal and go to yoga, and it's like finding what works for you.
Well, just deep, slow breathing. I learned these techniques just this year, and
what happens is it strengthens your vagus nerve, right? We talked about that nerve and how if you have low vagal nerve tone, am I saying that correctly? That you're not super resilient and you have a higher risk of different disease states. But just by deep breathing, right? So there's, like some people call it box breathing or the 4-6 method. You take four really long seconds of breaths and then exhale for 6. And do that 10 times.
You see me do it.
I do, and it seems he does that when he's mad at me. By the way, he just goes in the other room.
No, actually, it's when you're mad at me, and then I close my eyes and take 4 to 6 deep breaths.
But you feel better after, right?
I do, but it works to go to sleep.
That's my
for me.
cue to say, okay, it's enough too. But all joking aside, it really just helps.
Yeah.
It just helps bring everything back down and calm the nervous system, so that the rest and digest part of your nervous system can go back to work, and all the things that are so technical but necessary can go back to work.
But not everybody can meditate. You can't. That's not good for you. And not everybody can do yoga. But there's chair yoga, there's Zumbas, there's all these other things. There's water aerobics. All of these things can still cause relaxation and de-stress.
You have to find what works for you.
And lastly, our last get to work is keep it simple and sustainable. And we're going to always talk about this on our 5 get to work recommendations always, but keep it simple and sustainable is the hard thing. I mean, diets aren't sustainable, and you talk about that. Diets don't work. So it's the same thing. You have to just pick one action. One thing to start with,
Agreed,
and build upon it.
I think first, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think it's really important to first acknowledge the fact that you are experiencing, whether it's stress or fear or whatever words you want to use, that it's inhibiting something in your life. Acknowledging it first, knowing that it's going to affect your health, and then really being proactive and finding what works for you. Just take it down a notch.
Well, I mean, that's, as we end today's podcast, that's pretty much it. Again, just telling everyone out there that fear is a modifiable risk factor. And I think we've given some pretty good examples for everybody from that standpoint. So it either controls you or you control it.
Absolutely.
And that's really the bottom line here. This is our first show, and as we conclude, we just want to let you know we're not just a cardiologist and a dietitian. We want to be your guides. There's a lot of posts out there, a lot of influencers. Social media is inundated with healthcare tips and recommendations, and it's confusing.
Yeah.
And
scary. There's a lot of bad
yeah.
ones and really not accurate information, both in the nutrition category and especially in the health and cardiovascular category.
So our job here, and this is something that we take very seriously, we want to lead you down the right path. We're going to always give you actionable recommendations. We're going to provide good sound evidence. And at the end of the day, we encourage you to reach out to us. Let us know things that you're concerned about. Today, give us one thing if you want to comment below in our social media. Today, comment on one aspect of fear that's gripped you and what you plan on doing it to correct it in the future. I think that's something that we always look forward to reading and hearing about from all of you. And of course, we'd love you to like our podcast today. And
follow us on social media.
And follow us, yes. So if you subscribe, you're going to know when the next episode occurs. And
we're always open to your recommendations and tips. And maybe you'll even get to see some bring our real married life to the camera, which may or may not be funny. I don't know. We're going to find out. But we're just bringing real life. We're really bringing, honestly, our area of expertise in really hopes that it can help you. I know when I watch a lot of things on social media, my hair stands up with some of them, but it's confusing, right? And I even think I know the answers, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, is that accurate? Is that right? So it can be really hard to navigate all that kind of stuff. So that's what we want to do. We want to bring facts, a little fun, a little wisdom, maybe a little banter to you.
So stay tuned for our next podcast, which is part 2 of the worst health trends that are killing us, because you'll be surprised.
Hi, I'm Philippa Beddington, registered dietitian and integrative wellness specialist, and I am the creator of Phil Knows Food and the author of Cracking the Food Code.
Hi, I'm Dr. Scott. I've spent 30 years in the cardiac cath lab, and I am sick and tired of seeing preventable diseases not prevented.